Drinking with Authors may contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Drinking with Authors. I am your host, the author Nick Savage. This episode, as every episode, is brought to you by Four Horsemen Publications. So head on down to fourhorsemenpublications.com and give them a looky-loo. I don't know why the hell I just said looky-loo. But tonight we welcome Bob Freeman, author of the H2 Lift Ships series. I had to practice it. It's a bit of a tongue twister for me. He has 5 novels in that series, and he is going to tell us first what he's drinking and then give us a nice trigger warning. So, Bob, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure this is going to be fun. My normal drink is tea, which there it is.
Tea is good. I'm doing coffee today.
But I actually have a bottle of Trader Joe's Special Reserve Irish whiskey I opened up. I've never tried it.
Trader Joe's
has video, so let's see if this is worth it. The $10 I paid for it.
I didn't know that Trader Joe's had their own brand of whiskey. So yeah,
me neither. I saw it there, and we were getting some $2 chuck, which is always good. And I saw this, so for $10 I can buy it.
Let's see if this is any good.
Yeah, I say calling an Irish whiskey is probably a stretch.
It's not peaty enough to be an Irish whiskey?
No, it's kind of sharp, not smooth. It's got whiskey in there.
So if you're in Trader Joe's and you need a $10 bottle of whiskey, there you go.
I'll drink tea. Thank you.
Yeah, no. So the H2 Lift Ships series, it's been hailed as a wild space opera romp, kind of a Hitchhiker's Guide meets
other Firefly, they said, and the Expanse.
Yeah, the Expanse. Thank you. That's one that was eluding my mind, but Firefly did have it in there as well. So tell us about it. And I know you said you have a trigger warning, so take it away.
Yeah, basically, this is what I have in the front of every book, because it's got a lot of science in there. If someone doesn't like science, they're not going to like the books. So I say these outer space stories take place in Sol's heliosphere. They contain real science, pseudoscience, and stuff pulled out of thin air. If you enjoy a long, complex ramp-up as part of a world-building story, the series is for you. Otherwise, maybe try something lighter and more flashy. In these stories, there are no blasters, no magical FTL drives, no exploding computers, no physical violence, and no sex, except for the little kerfuffle with the canines and the pheromones. And yet, still no aliens, if you don't count the octopuses. There are some issues with death on the Mort asteroid, but after living on Sol's rocks, we all die eventually. You'll find some gambling, drinking, passive-aggressive families, lying, stealing, and double-dealing. In other words, normal sentience. Mostly nice, but watch your back. Scientific names, genus and species, puns, and unique spellings abound. It's written in English with a few French, Yiddish, Spanglish, Latin, and Doglish words thrown about. Knowledge of octopus color languages and Morse code are not required, but couldn't hurt. And if that doesn't scare off a reader, I don't know what will.
No, that's a pretty intense kind of disclaimer right there. I think in a lot of sci-fi, the sex and like that whole isn't necessary, isn't even part of a lot of it, outside of maybe in Super Troopers when they have, or not Super Troopers, Starship Troopers in the movie when they have like the one flashing scene. It's not necessarily a obligatory part of the genre, but you say there's no violence,
right? The stories are built basically as a what's the right wording? Following all the tropes of modern star operas. There are basically a lot of blasters, a lot of people dying, a lot of exploding pixels, and I always mourn for all the dead pixels that are blown up all the time.
Yeah.
So in these stories, I wanted to write something that was still a space opera, but wasn't predicated with a lot of violence. And it started off as a family-friendly type story, and then the characters turned on me and started a hive war against the AI biogels. Because these characters sort of take a life of their own.
with that much science involved, I'm assuming it's a hard sci-fi in the sense of you explain a lot of the science behind things that happen.
Right. The first book is mostly setting the boundaries, and we have people on asteroids mining, and I go through each sections of the asteroids, the nuclear reactor that keeps everyone warm, how you do the mining, the composting, microbiology lab, the chemical lab, and things that are, if you're going to be in outer space, you have to know about. And there's no gravity in there, of course, because it's the only power source is basically nuclear power or photons. So without this special power that all the latest space operas have, you don't have your replicators, and you don't have, of course, no faster than light drive. So everything has to be brought in or grown on the asteroids. And if they're close enough to Earth, you can have bags of water holding fish and algae. So the food is mostly algae pucks. So it's a pretty tasteless world. There's one asteroid which actually grows a lot of vegetables and herbs and fungi, which of course everyone loves. And of course anything imported from Earth is high quality.
Okay, so you got started writing a little later than some authors do, and
right.
you even say that on your website and your bios and stuff. You spent a lot of your time pre-writing as a bioengineer, I believe it said.
No, actually, as a public health microbiologist and lab director.
Microbiologist. Thank you. I was like, my brain is mashing things up. I am assuming there was influence from your career into the writing world and how the world was written.
Yeah, exactly. It's always, you have to use real science in this as much as possible. Although there are some kind of weird pseudoscience outtakes, which I had to use to keep the story going. But I try to keep the science relatable. The goal here is, for me at least, was to have a story for kids who like space operas but don't like all the killings and all the explosions, and to get them interested in science and say, oh, there's another way to do this without this magical stuff. Because again, all of modern space operas are basically based on magic. The faster than light drives, which don't really exist, transporters, which may or may not exist at some point in the future, and trying to base it all on science that we have here that actually works, and to keep kids interested in saying, well, there's more to it than just Star Wars. Well, Star Wars is fun, but the main issue with that is 30 seconds into any Star Wars, they start fighting, bring out the lasers and start shooting things up, and that's it's exciting, but it sort of takes away from the story in my mind.
Is that why you wanted to then stay away from the violence, is to keep the story moving forward in a, as you said, family-friendly way?
Yeah, and basically it gets repetitious. All the stories in all the latest Star Wars, even though they're fun, they're all based on violence, which is nothing wrong with it. It's sort of the type of world we seem to be living in. But I'd like to give an alternative to people.
And you said that you intended it to be family-friendly, but your characters turned on you. So I guess a two-parter. What age group were you looking at and targeting in the initial books, and how much did it kind of grow up to, do your readers need to take a break for 5 years so they can mature a bit in between certain books, or by the time they're done, are they mature enough then to continue on, hopefully?
No, it's mostly set up for the 13 young adults. Everyone assumes that they don't know anything and they don't understand how the world goes, but they actually have a pretty good grasp on things. They know that people aren't always good and things don't always work out. And we've got family issues in there, which is a driving force. A lot of gambling, normal things, backstabbing, cheating, lying, everyday things that people see all the time. So it'd be for the cynical 13-year-old.
The cynical, I think it's most 13-year-olds. I just don't think
pretty much.
They quite understand what, the full grasp of that definition, but I think a lot of teens start having that kind of viewpoint for at least a while until it changes. So the inspiration then behind, besides just wanting to write a family-friendly, was it a like, was there anything deeper in the inspiration? Something that happened at work that inspired, or was it just a need to write something for young adults?
I wouldn't call it deeper, but I did want to have use the word doggerella in the story. So that means we had to have canines. And that the story built up, we've got a spacefaring race, or humans in that case. You've got dogs, so it's not exactly a lot of electronics because we're using hydrogen, and everything becomes saturated with hydrogen. So you can't have a lot of metal around you because it's going to explode. So it takes it back down to almost steampunk, but not quite. So everything is by ropes and pulleys. And so once you have the dog, then you need someone who handle the ropes and the pulleys, which is, of course, a simian, an orangutan in this case. And then I had to build the story up, and I needed a captain. Well, I had 2 male animals, so I can't have another male. So the main character became Graciela Lucerne, who's captain and has some family issues. And the biggest thing was finding the navigator, because the obvious thing was okay, you've got a dog, you've got a simian, you've got a human, he'll go a cat, which, too easy. So I figured out the better animal would be an octopus. They're intelligent, they got 8 arms, they can handle different things at different times, multitask, and they're the navigators. And the octopuses are unusual because they have names, but they're color names. So you can't use a color name to talk to an octopus because you can't make the colors. So all of them are called octopus. They only use the first name octopus. And they communicate by using a sucker against a diaphragm, so they can actually speak in English, or they can use Morse code. And Morse code is sort of the lingua franca of the area, because everyone can understand it, or you should understand it. You can transmit over great distances by just flashing lights, and you don't have to make a direct connection. Plus, if you're in an area with pirates, you can keep it so it's a narrow beam. You don't have to find a laser to attach to for communication, although you can do that. But you can just use flashing lights to communicate from ship to ship.
That is a very planned out, well thought out kind of reason to use Morse code. Now, in your career, I'm assuming Morse code wasn't something you used on the regular. So did you actually learn all of Morse code, or just learn what you needed to when necessary?
Well, I've forgotten all the Morse code. I can give it that much. I actually had my amateur radio license, general class license, back when you had to do 13 words a minute Morse code to pass the test. I found out recently they dropped that because I guess people don't like to do that anymore. But it was just something to do as we were playing with electronics, and it was a fun thing to do at that time, and it fit the story. We have we actually use Morse code in the text, and I found some Morse code generators online that I can put text in, and they will spit me back Morse code that I can put into the audios.
That's wonderful. I think most people, or at least people who listen to certain genres of music, the most they get into Morse code is like a Metallica song that references a movie that used it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's
Right.
not a lot of Morse code being used nowadays. So outside of film and television for the occasional episode, so it's nice to see that you're bringing that back and using it. So it is intriguing because you got started at 70 writing.
Right.
Why not earlier?
I had to work for a living. I found out I like to eat. And
Bills,
yeah.
They're
You can't sort of make a living, writing too well. So I waited until I retired and sat around doing nothing and said, well, I really don't want to drink all day. And I figured I'd start writing a story.
You did not take the usual author approach of developing a nice drinking habit and then writing. You were like, no, I'm going to write instead.
Yeah, me and my liver didn't agree so much. I figured I'd stop doing that for too long.
I completely understand. That's why when we changed up the format of this show, it's still drinking with authors, but it's not necessarily drinking alcohol. Yeah, we have whiskey, in case you need, but you have tea. I have my coffee.
Well, that's really bad.
What's bad?
No offense to Trader Joe's, but
yeah.
I'd want to spend more than $10 next time.
I tried a beer once that is the Iron Maiden Trooper beer. And I love Iron Maiden, one of my all-time favorite, musical bands. And I was at a place in Chicago called Kuma's Corner, and they had it on tap, and it's great burgers. And I was like, all right, burgers are good. They're going to have good beer. I was so excited to try this beer. And to be fair, light-bodied, like the light Pilsners are not my cup of tea.
Right.
But I was like, it's Iron Maiden. I'm going to love this beer. Probably one of my least favorite beers I've ever had. And it's not necessarily saying it's a bad beer, because I know a lot of people I've talked to who are like, oh my God, I love it. But to me, I'm just like, oh, this is not my, I was so disheartened and disappointed in what I had, mentally built up. So I'm sure there is someone who will love that Trader Joe's $10 bottle of whiskey. I'm sorry, that is not your cup of tea. But it may go well with like Coke or something as a mixer.
Yeah, although Irish whiskey, you don't really want to mix that stuff. It's you drink it because of the quality, taste, and
oh yes, but it's not good quality.
Yeah, I definitely put Coke in there or something.
Yeah, no, I am generally not a mixer of my whiskeys unless it's something that I'm not a huge fan of. Then it's just something to drink it and get by. But no. So you have 5 books in the series,
right?
And they are
and then
all...
another one I just finished a while ago.
So, do you have an end in sight, or is it going to be kind of just ongoing?
No, the last book was actually went all the way back to the past before the birth of the main character, and followed her parents and her pirates and how they got their fortune by stealing things. But no, as far as I'm concerned, it's complete for me. I mean, I don't want to get repetitious. Every asteroid has a different politics, and that's what makes it fun. Like some are communists or hippies or democracies, all sorts of variations, and that was nice for the story, because every time you went to a different asteroid, you had a whole different attitude there. But after a while, you get repetitious after you've covered every possible government. And we're trying to do a production where you make it into a TV show or a movie, and that's where we're going now. So I wrote it as a screenplay. Yeah, go ahead.
No. That's okay. I should have let you continue. I do apologize. With the TV show or movie kind of adaptation of it, are you writing the screenplay yourself, or are you bringing on a crew and a team to kind of do the production?
Yeah, we have a production team. We've got 3 actors signed on already. I wrote a screenplay just because, well, the thing of getting done with all my books and getting bored. So I got a copy of Final Draft and figured, well, I can do this, and it's a lot harder than you expect, of course. Yeah. But basically, it's more just a guideline of how the story flows. I know there's absolutely no chance my screenplay will be adapted in word for word, but it's an exercise and understand how that sort of stuff works. And right now we're at the stage where I think we're looking for another actor and, of course, money to do the whole thing. And there's going to be a cinematic trailer. I have some of the group which is working with, and they sent me sort of the rushes from that, and it looks really fun. But of course they interpreted it much different than I did. But these are young kids, so I'm going to let them do what they want. They know the audience better than I do.
So you do have some footage being shot and everything as kind of a promo for any potential investors.
Right. It's supposed to be done Memorial Day, so they've been working on it for a couple of months. And the stuff they sent me was pretty impressive.
Very nice. And then when it's done, do you have people you intend to shop it around to, or is that still kind of...
Yeah, that's above my skill level. The production crew, they're doing all the shopping and getting the actors, figuring out how things work, and I'm just sort of tagging along.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah, I know my limits. I can write well. I can't speak worth a damn, but I'm certainly not going to direct a movie or a screen show. But I told him I want to do a Hitchcock in there, if at all possible.
A Hitchcock.
Yeah, Hitchcock was in every show he made.
Oh, you want to make like a little cameo for yeah.
And I just call it a Hitchcock because he did that the best. So we'll see if they let me. They'll see if it gets to that stage. If they let me do that, it'd be fun.
No, that's actually it's a ton of fun. Adaptation from like the written work to screenplay or even teleplay is a very different monster. Um, pacing alone kind of changes things, and having to adapt. Like what are you leaving out versus what can you fit in, and still have the pacing be proper and stuff is a very uh, precarious kind of plate to balance.
Right. And
There,
I've learned to let the professionals do their work, and I do my stuff, and it always works out better in the long run.
so you have then these 6 books, right? The 5 and then
Well,
you have
the sixth one is a time travel book, because I'd like to make things weird. It's instead of the normal tropes for time travel, where you go back in time and change things and stuff happens. The character breaks through the time wall, and all he finds is replicas of himself. Every moment in time is strung out as a bunch of slinkies, and they're not happy with him. They don't like him being on the wrong side of time. So I carry all that into a whole story, and there's cryptids who are behind time, the time wall in this case, and that's why in my book the cryptids show up and disappear. They pass through the time wall, do their little thing, and hop back behind time. But that's a fun story. I had a good time doing that one.
you tend it seems like you take these general tropes or conventions and kind of have a very unique twist on them, all always rooted in science.
Right.
What why the desire to stray from the norm? I mean, the norm works. Why want to change it?
Well, because then it's just the norm, like I've 10,000 other writers and screenwriters. Part of it comes from my microbiology background, where there's a book called Bergey's Manual, which basically it identifies all the characteristics of a bug, and if it meets all these characters and it's this bug, except 10% of the time it's not that bug. So there's always an outlier.
Yeah,
and that's to me, that's the interesting stuff. How come 99% of the time it's this, but then the exact same characters, it's not that? So there's always room for a little space, extra space in there.
no, I like that. Very, very well said. So anything new then on the horizon in a different world or new books or anything, or just concentrating on the
No, I can try and take this into the TV mode or film. That's I think it's not that the story has run out. It's just that if I start repeating myself with the same sort of story with a small twist, then I'm not happy. I want to see something new.
and nothing's quite hit you like that to write a different world or anything like that at the moment, just kind
Well,
of.
not at the moment, but
Yeah.
I didn't know I was going to write this 6 years ago, and there's not, at some point in time that I hate to say it, but 77, so I have to sort of write fast and get things done, because I've got that clock I have to worry about.
No, that's kind of been the theme the past couple interviews I've done, is the ticking clock, as you say. I think certain people are feeling it more than others right now, and to me, 77 isn't. I don't want to say isn't old, but it's not to me. I'm like, yeah, when people were 20, and 15, 40 was old. But now that I'm 46, I'm looking at 77. I'm looking, and I'm like, that's not old. That's not like
exactly.
they have to worry about anything like time running out. They got another 25 years left on them. I'm like,
yeah, just like Trump.
of
course, those were talking in months, not years.
Yeah.
Not that I have anything against the guy as such, but at some point in time, you have to know when to cut bait and fish.
Yeah. No. I definitely understand that. I think we're on a similar sides with that, or at least similar viewpoints on that. I definitely, I think that the world around us is getting to a boiling point, and
Right.
Unfortunately, it's been simmering for too long. That I think the boiling is going to boil over when it does.
Yeah, and with my background in public health, 20 years as a microbiologist and lab director, I see what he's doing, and in my perspective, I consider us living on basically we're a biological soup, and we're just part of the soup, and all these
Yeah.
bugs are just trying to make a living, just like we are. But unfortunately, we're what they make a living off of. And if you don't slap them down or protect yourself against them, they're going to come back and say, "Well, hello, welcome to my world."
Now, I've talked with people, and as you are a microbiologist, not me, I am not. I've known people who are like, I don't believe in germs. I don't believe in, viruses. And I'm like, what, like, what kind of argument or response? I don't want to say argument because clearly one is right and one is wrong. It's not an opinion. Without having the microscope next to you, with the virus on the slide, what is your response to those people who are like, I don't believe in germs?
I just say, well, Darwin, he'll show you.
So you're a less is more approach. Don't worry about trying to convince them.
If someone wants help, I'm always willing to help. But if they ignore it, then nothing I can do about it. I think the classic, and I don't have my timing right, but in England at the scientific societies, a long time ago, they had some guys. I think it was anthrax, and he said, "Okay, this vial contains anthrax, and it's deadly." And one of the older so-called scientists asked, balderdash, and he took it and drank it and dropped dead. So,
wow, yeah,
that was at that point in time, people said, well, maybe there are germs.
Well, because I do know that Mary O'Malley who's better known as Typhoid Mary, and I may have gotten her last name wrong,
Right.
was the reason the entire kind of scientific branch of microbiology exists was because of the typhoid that she spread. And then being able to study
and that really was more epidemiology than anything else. They tracked down who she was and where it's coming from. I think, Jenner with his cowpox was the big one, where he started vaccinating people against cowpox. And of course, George Washington, our leader, inoculated all his troops against smallpox. And you think that'd be a good reason to keep on inoculations, but obviously, I guess he's not good enough for some people.
Now, you said he inoculated for smallpox, but it was a guy doing cowpox?
Well, Jenner in England was doing cowpox. And I think Washington just said, okay, we better do this because smallpox was a big thing back then.
Okay, so
but
they are different.
The cowpox is, I guess, the story is he discovered that the milkmaids never got smallpox. And the reason they didn't get it was the cows had cowpox, which is closely related to smallpox. So he inoculated people with the cowpox, which protects against smallpox.
Interesting. And unfortunately, I know they're starting to bring back that vaccine, which for a few generations wasn't necessary.
Well, yeah, smallpox is supposedly it's only in 4 or 5 different class 4 labs, Russia, America, a few other places, and in a freezer somewhere. But there's really no good protection. I mean, the vaccine's good, but they'd have to scale the vaccine like crazy to get it to work. So hopefully no one's going to open a freezer and do the wrong thing.
Okay, because I thought there were outbreaks again coming, and I know there's measles outbreaks, but I thought.
Yeah, and I could be wrong because I haven't, I've been writing sci-fi for the last 7 years, so I haven't really kept up with the exact science. But yeah, measles is the scariest one because it's so communicable. If you walk in a room with someone has measles and you walk back out, you're probably going to have measles if you don't have a vaccine.
I see. I should, and I do have a very curious mind, but I'm like, well, they've been eradicated, so just keep them eradicated, and I don't need to learn about them. I didn't realize measles was airborne like that.
Oh yeah, it's supposedly the easiest bug to catch.
See, that's not fun.
No,
that's not fun. I did have my MMR when I was younger, but God knows how long that lasts.
Yeah, actually, I got worried about it, and I decided I had my serum tested for measles, and so mine is like 60 years old, and I got a great titer.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, a titer being the resistance to the vaccine, able to resist the bug, so it does last a lifetime. Because one thing they say, your vaccine will last a lifetime, but it really hasn't been a whole lifetime since the measles vaccine came out.
Well, that and bugs can mutate,
Yeah,
and it can still
and
be
that'd be the
considered a
biggest scary
measles.
thing. If measles gets friendly with something that's even more virulent, that could be a real nasty situation. But hopefully, that's not going to happen.
Do you now? This is old news at this point, but as you're a microbiologist, I have to ask: did the COVID vaccine get handled to the best of the ability for what they knew at the time, without looking back, going, "Oh, we could have handled it better in this way"? Was there a better way with the knowledge they had at the moment to have handled it better? Do you think?
No, I think they did a good job because the mRNA vaccine is essentially brand new, even though it was 20 years old, and they scaled that up tremendously fast. But it wasn't the basically, grow a virus in an egg and extract it from that. It's basically a molecular vaccine. In other circumstances, I think we dodged a bullet, even though millions of people died. Without that mRNA, it would have been a lot worse. And of course, that bug is still mutating constantly.
No, it's definitely still mutating and stuff, and it's kind of one of those things where like I was working restaurants at the time, before it came out, and even when the COVID hit, and there were reports because of the November before the March where the world shut down. Everybody in my restaurant was sick with something.
Right.
We all went to the doctor, and they were like, "Oh, we don't know what it is. It's just a respiratory illness," and they all had the symptoms of COVID.
Yeah.
But we didn't know what it was. So 5 months later, when March hits and the world shuts down, we were like, "Oh," and then there were reports of it being, it might have actually starting to show signs earlier about November, and we're all like, "Yeah, everyone in the restaurant industry had it."
Exactly.
That's what it was, and it was horrible. But I do think it's easy to look back with rose-colored glasses and be like, "Oh, we could have handled it better this way, this way, or this way." And it's nice to hear someone who was a professional in the field go, "No, we handled it about as good as we could have."
Right.
Just
Yeah, and you had the protection because you were young. That's always the best thing to protect you from vaccines. I mean, from viruses.
yeah.
But it's when you get older and things start breaking down, it gets nastier. And I actually caught COVID once. And after I had the vaccine and took the Paxlovid, and that's it's antiviral, but it's nasty. It's an ugly little. The antivirals are basically, we're going to kill the human or we're going to kill the virus first. So it's sort of a contest. And I prefer not to take that sort of antiviral again.
Oh no, definitely understand that. I mean, with any medicine, like people, because of the way side effects are required to be listed. You look at Tylenol or Advil, and death can be a side effect on them. Heart attack,
Right.
stroke, but with any medication, there's a risk. But sometimes the risk doesn't seem like it's worth the reward, especially as you might be a little older than some, so your body's not going to handle it as well. But the amount of people that died because of COVID, I think, was a very misleading thing, because people are like, "Oh, it was only like 6 million people." I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of people. Like,
exactly.
You can't compare it to the planetary population. You have to compare it to it's 6 million people that died only from this or complications of this that would still be alive otherwise. That's generations of people killed, gone forever.
Yeah, and it's it's just sort of you can put some of the blame on public health because it's been so good. So it's basically a public health is sort of like a duck, floating on the water, just gently floating along, but down beneath they're just paddling like crazy. And public health, all these people are doing all this hard work keeping you safe. So you think, "Oh, it's just fine. I'm just floating on a river. It's easy." But it's once you start getting away with not doing the correct public health, not doing studies and epidemiology and tracking people down, then things get out of hand. And that's pretty much where we are now. And it remains to be seen what's going to happen from that regard. But of course, if you get on the H2 lift ships and go live on an asteroid, you're well protected.
Well, now I know you, and I was actually going to bring it back to this, so thank you for the segue. I always like to point out segues. I don't know why. I have this weird.
Yeah, I've sort of figured we're really not doing a microbiology talk, so I better.
No, we're not. I was like, let's get it back here. the you mentioned a lot of like gambling and piracy and stuff like that in the series. Is there any sort of background from your professional microbiology in the series at all that takes place, or do you leave that in the past since you're retired?
No, I played poker once for nickels and lost everything I had, and I haven't picked up the game again since then. But in public health, you get whoever walks in the door is always not. I wouldn't say they're bad people, but they may have done a few things they haven't. So you get to know how people work and how they don't work, and I sort of draw from that. I mean, the classic was I worked most of my time in the border down right across from Mexico, which was good because we used to go there for lunch. It was great food.
Oh yeah.
One of the border patrol people came in, and so I got some what are those some crabs because I was patting someone down, and he asked me, "Could you tell my wife that's how I got it?" I said, "Well, that's a reach, but okay." And then he came back a month later and said, "I got him again." I said, "No, you're on your own."
So, from microbiology to piracy of the high space seas and living on asteroids and mining them, H2 lift ships. Did I say that right finally?
Yeah.
I have speech problems, and I call myself out if I don't think I say something right. Explain the title, because it's a very interesting title, and I know that hydrogen is the big thing, but H2 lift ships almost sounds like it's a brand name of a ship company.
Yeah, basically it's just, you're using hydrogen to lift off the Earth. And, that's the big difference here. We don't have chemical rockets to blast everyone out. It's the way I've conceived of it, it's a kilometer wide balloon. So it's not a lightweight thing. And you go as high as you can with the hydrogen. Then you take your crew and start pumping things down and blast the hydrogen out the rear end, add a little oxygen, and go a little bit higher. Then you have an empty shell. And it has to be a new fabric, of course, something has to be re-engineered. And at that point, you have a solar sail, a kilometer wide solar sail. And the world I envision is a commercial world, because you've got this huge blank slate up there floating around space. All the commercial people want to put their advertisement on it. So the main ship is called the Luna Cola, which is a gray, overly sweet, crunchy drink. And that's their logo, and that's what they're called, is the Luna Cola. And the Graciela's mother has a ship called the Bean of Beans, which is a can of beans with a dog's face on it. So your ship becomes the name of your advertiser. And Graciela actually goes through 5 different names, because she keeps on either losing her ship or losing the sail. And she just fights back from all that and keeps on going, finds a new advertiser. And in this scenario, she actually helped start a war, heliospheric size war. Because what we have here are the biogels, which are AI sentient tablets, basically just gray slates. And because they're semi-sentient, we've got the hive mother on the heliopause and the hive sisters on the heliotail. And the hive mother decided, well, these sisters are getting out of line. They're starting to think for themselves. So she tried to reboot those in her image. And they didn't allow that. They got pissed off and started fighting back. And there you have the hive war. And since the biogels are in everything, people notice it because the ATMs all of a sudden didn't work. You either get more money, less money, or no money. So at that point in time, it became a disaster, because you had to go back to, I call it beads, barter, and IOUs. Is the only way you could live until they resolve the war. So that stretches in there, getting from one end of the heliosphere to the other, which is basically using laser cannons, nuclear-powered laser cannons, to give them a boost, because after they travel a while, they're going to slow down. Because you can only go so far on a solar sail around Sol.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're sailing off sunlight,
right?
Solar sail, yeah. If the sunlight's not reaching you, you're not going to sail very far.
Because a chemical ship or even a nuclear powered ship, they end up having to carry more fuel than cargo, because it's just the distance is so great, and that they have to just power so much. But a solar sail ship, you basically have the nuclear fuel in a cannon, and they just blast the ship off to the next port.
Did you find it difficult to keep it so science-based? Like, because I know you didn't want to go into the realm of magic or unrealistic science. So was there a lot of difficulties keeping it extremely hard science based on what we know?
Oh yeah, there's always things you have to make adjustments for. Like I have the okay. One thing is we have the asteroids who have algal farms, and because humans and sentients are kind of messy, they always lose cells, and because they're phototrophic, the loose cells head towards Sol, and they accumulate and they become algal rocket ships, which I thought was a kind of a fun thing. And I needed to get, and they were taken over by the rogue biogels and controlled by them. But I needed to get the algal rocket ships to fly as fast as the solar sail. So I gave them those, they could extend the sail. But, that's not as efficient as a manufactured sail. So at the end point, I had to have them slide off gravity waves, which is really a stretch. But it's the only way to get them from one point to the other. But, no one knows if it's going to work or if it's not going to work until they get out there and try it.
No, that's actually really cool. I can appreciate books that root in science and don't rely on like dogma of, just it's magical or supernatural in order to do that. I think that's
right.
A really nice accomplishment to have.
Yeah. So, and the one thing I didn't want to have was a zombie, but then I found out there was a place where I had to have a zombie. So I just went with that. But there's no way you can get away from the zombies in the long run.
So I have to ask then, because zombies tend to be, undead, supernatural type stuff. How did you, and if you can't, without spoilers, just say it would be a spoiler, but how did you root the zombie in science?
Yeah, well, I don't mind the zombie spoilers because it's, it's 1,300 words, 130,000 words. So there's lots of space in there. But yeah, basically they're approaching a naval base on the far end of the Oort cloud, and the algae had destroyed the base, but there was one soldier on there, one sailor, and Jack, who was on lookout, who's the canine, said, "Oh, he's waving at us," which of course a dead person can't do, and there's no air to make him wave, so that's essentially the zombie. And they ended up blowing up the whole asteroid because they needed a way to get back.
Oh.
So one tiny zombie, but you have to have a zombie in there somewhere.
The zombies have become the obligatory necessity for stories nowadays.
Right.
So where can people find you? Where can people pick up your books, follow you on social media? Give me the shameless self-promotion.
Yeah, my website is h2liftship.com. And on there, there's a contact page which lists all the socials. I'm on all the socials because that's what you're supposed to do nowadays. And you can find it using Drafted Digital, which has all the like Kobo and Barnes and Nobles, or of course Amazon. And on my website, you can buy the book directly. Anyone who wants a signed copy. And we do have an audiobook out for the volume 1, and that's also on my website as far as the links go.
But the audiobook right now is just volume 1, not...
Yeah, because I found out it cost a small fortune to get that thing made, because it's not just a talking person, but I have sound effects in there. Because what I wanted was like an old-timey radio show. Yes. You have sound effects, and so it wasn't cheap, and I think I've sold $30 worth of books to cover... I won't even say how much it cost me, because my wife may hear this, and I don't want her to know.
No. I understand how much audiobooks cost, and they are... they're approaching a break point actually in the industry where a lot of people aren't doing them anymore because of the cost associated with them.
Yeah.
I
mean, there's nice. I had a good time doing it and making sure the sounds were correct and everything was nice, but you can make less money doing that than you can writing a book.
Yeah. No, it definitely is a whole separate monster into itself. So if you had to give one piece of writing advice, and I do like to ask this, if you had to give one piece of writing advice to an aspiring writer, what would that be?
Oh, that's easy. Just don't listen to unsolicited advice.
Don't listen to the unsolicited advice.
Right.
But I'm assuming then you're saying at least take in the solicited advice that you're asking for.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you can even listen to it, but you can say, well, yeah, but I'm not going to do that. You have to listen to what you want to do and do it your way. I mean, if I had listened to someone, I wouldn't have done the book the way it is, and it still remains to be seen if it's a success. But I'm happy with the product.
I think at the end of the day, if you're happy with it and you're writing for yourself, you're going to find your audience instead of trying to, pander to an audience that you're with a product you're not feeling organic with. So I think you have followed the right direction, definitely, and the way to go with that.
Yeah, and there's so much, because of the asteroid, there's so much available room there. If someone wants to do their own takeoff on that'd be fine. There's so much to explore.
A little bit of fanfic.
Yeah, and one thing I covered in a lot of chapters is how to handle dead people, because you just can't throw them off the asteroid because they're just going to stick around. And you go down the compost chute, but no one really likes that. So I had to invent a whole world where they pick up the dead, freeze dry them, put them in a box, and take them to some asteroid which is placed outside of Mercury, and those are catapulted to the surface of Mercury where they become dust. So we have the whole cycle there.
Oh Lord, I am now imagining somebody in a government institution somewhere hearing this and going, "That's a great idea. We're going to start freeze drying our dead and launching them towards Venus or Mercury."
Yeah, but then you got the whole chemical rocket thing. You can't get there from here.
No. I know that they sent a probe to Venus, but it disintegrated, quickly once it hit the surface and stuff like that. But oh Lord. No,
yeah,
I want to
Earth has the advantage of worms and bacteria, and asteroids are dead, dry things. So there's really no way to handle organic matter, and you can't really burn it in the nuclear engine because then you're wasting power, and power is, you can't throw that away.
Because on the asteroid they would be mummified, or would they just not decompose and kind of stay?
Yeah, they would just be there, freeze dried essentially.
Yeah.
But if you chuck them off, and all the asteroids have catapults, because one thing about solar sails is they're fragile, and the other thing about humans and other sentients is they're messy as hell. So there's going to be a debris field floating around an asteroid. So you can't just extend your solar sail and get a boost. You have to go get a catapult first to kick off beyond the debris field. So we have a little bit of medieval stuff there.
So you almost have a new genre, because you said it's not quite steampunk.
Right.
But I don't know. I would have to look up, because I know there's timelines for when steampunk happens, when cyberpunk happens, when all these things happen. So I'd have to look that up to see exactly where that falls. But that is a very interesting concept to have and stuff like that in space. I like that a lot. So everyone who's listening, go pick up his books, get them on Amazon, get them on his site if you'd like a signed book for yourself. If you enjoy listening to books, Volume 1 is done up old-timey radio style with some sound effects. So go pick all that up. And that is H2 Lift Ships.
Ships. Yeah, you got to watch that. I'm going to say that properly. The P and the S and the T get a little mixed up. And of course, anyone who's got money to burn and wants to support a TV show, we're more than happy to talk to them.
Yes, he is looking for some. So if you're a TV or movie producer and you got some money to burn and want some new IP out there, check him out, because he's looking and he's got a whole team working on it already. But that is Bob Freeman, author of H2 Lift Ships. I said it right. It is. I have speech issues, and those words are hard for me, so I apologize.
Well, I'm sure if we ever get in the writer room, there's going to be only one way to say it, and it won't be the best way, but that's the way it goes.
But no, I want to thank you for being here, and it's been a pleasure talking about everything and learning about your world. And I wish you all the best of luck getting that made into the movie and TV. And when book 6 releases, if you want to come back on, hit us up and everything. And love to have you back, but stick around. And for everyone else, thank you so much for being here. And until then, just remember, it costs nothing to be kind.
Yeah, and I do appreciate it. And don't forget, I've got a whole bottle of bad whiskey. If someone wants it, I'll be happy to pass it on to them.
Hit us up in the comments. Let us know. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Drinking with Authors. Join us next time for another fun conversation with an author over drinks.
Thank you so much.